Good evening.
She's a good girl. She loves her mama, loves Jesus, and America too. She's a good girl. She's crazy about Elvis, loves horses, and boyfriend too now. It's a long day living in a cedar. There's a freeway running through the yard, and I'm a bad boy, so don't even miss her. I'm a bad boy for breaking her heart, and I'm free falling. Yes, I'm free falling. All the vampires are running through the valley. They move west down Venture Boulevard. And all those bad boys are standing in the shadows. All the good girls home with broken hearts. And I'm free falling. Yes, I'm free falling. Falling, 'cause I'm free falling, yes I'm free 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 falling, 'cause I'm free falling, yes I'm glide down, 'cause I'm over Mulholland. I wanna write her name in the sky. I wanna free fall down into nothing. I wanna leave this world for a while, 'cause I'm free falling. Yes, I'm free falling. I'm free falling. Free falling.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching, hearing, listening from. My name is JP. Welcome to Jump On Music UK. And this is how to loop the basics. Now I'm going to take the guitar off for a sec, and then we've got a couple of housekeepings, and then we're actually going to get into the grit of it. And thank you very much for joining us this evening. Let's turn the effects off. If you've ever been sort of just wondering how to do looping, or you've been thinking about getting started, then let me know, obviously, in the comments. This comment section over here, this is a multi-stream chat. So basically, we can do Facebook, we can do YouTube, of course, we can do LinkedIn, we can do Twitch, we can do Twitter as well. So say hi, let me know where you are. The audio coming out straight out the R600. It doesn't sound too clear. Ooh, okay. That's interesting. So basically what we've got is the audio is coming out straight out, but I am going into an audio interface for that reason. So if it's not super clear, it's because it's probably distorting a little bit because I'm pushing it a bit hard. Hang on a sec. But we'll adjust that as the night goes on. So if you are interested, obviously, in looping, then of course if you follow the channel, if you know the channel, then you'll know that I've been looping for many years. And I've got a couple of things to show you, a couple of things to tell you. But before we get going, this live stream is sponsored. It's sponsored by our friends over at DistroKid. DistroKid are a music distribution company. So if you have got music you're putting out there, you want to put out there, then what you can do is you can actually use a music distributor to do that. So if you scan that QR code that's down there, that'll actually give you 7% off your first annual membership with DistroKid, because DistroKid use a subscription-based model. I've just realized something. You are coming out of the audio studio, are you not? Yes, you are. High-resolution audio, stereo audio input. That's fine. It says it's working, so if you guys can hear me, obviously that's fine. Hello from New Zealand. Hi, how we doing? So yeah, basically, if you've got music ready to go, if you're looking at making music, or you've got music ready to go, and you need a music distributor, DistroKid can help you. So scan the QR code. It's just gone into the chats as well. And thank you very much to DistroKid for basically sponsoring this live stream. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to showcase something that I did a little while ago. I'm actually going to just turn off this camera, the bottom one, so just for now. It's basically because I want to talk to you. Hi. I should put a guitar on that side. Never mind. Tell you what, let's make it look prettier. That looks better, doesn't it? Right. So what we're going to do is actually going to showcase my workshop, which is called the Loop Pedal Workshop. We did this in November. And I got asked to do it again. So if you're interested in this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically show you day one. It's a 3-day event. And what we did, we held it live for 2 hours a day. So obviously 6 hours. And it was $49. Now, you can obviously let me know if you're interested in me repeating this. If you want to do the full 3 days, let me know. But also, you may see on the ticker at the very bottom here, we've got something basically which is $30 off my loop course, which is called How to Loop Like a Pro. Now, How to Loop Like a Pro is actually a beginner's course. So if you'd prefer to have a course to keep, and of course you can, pun intended, you can learn at your own pace, then obviously have a look at that. And that is right here. So that is normally $149, but you can actually get it with $30 off with the word Loop Like a Pro, and scan that QR code right there. See how I did that? That's really cool. The DistroKid one is up there. It's going to be up there for the entirety, apart from when we do the presentation. So I'm just going to basically show a couple of things. And if you've got any questions, this is what exactly it's for, how to loop the basics. Put those questions in, and of course I can loop in lots of different ways. We have pedal-based looping, we've got tabletop looping, we've got app-based looping, but today we're going to be concentrating on loop pedals, on actually floor-based pedals, and then we're going to have a look at a couple of other things further down the line. Okay, so what we're going to do is, and I hope this all works, we're going to actually bring this over. Hooray! This is my, I hope you can see that all right. This is my loop pedal workshop. So this is going to be the equivalent of day one, and there's actually 3 days of this. So there's 3 days of the loop pedal workshop, and if you are interested in the loop pedal workshop, you want me to do it the full loop pedal workshop, then let me know in the comment section below. And what we normally do is for the 3 days we charge $49. So you're getting me for 6 hours for $49, and we go through the full loop pedal workshop. This is day one, and I'm just going to go through day one, and if people are interested, then please let me know. If you're watching this on the replay and you're interested, let me know in the comment section below. And also, can everyone just give this a big thumbs up, a big sort of full out big thumbs up. That'd be really, really cool. Anyone watching that? Anyway, let's get started. We're going to have a look at the loop pedal workshop. So we're going to have a look at workshopping looping 101. Now, at this point, I just need to erase this actually. Let's do that. At this point, it doesn't matter what looper you have. The great thing about this workshop that we did over the 3 days, people kind of were saying it's really great because it doesn't matter what pedal you've got. Now, I'm going to be down here in the corner. Hi. And if you've got questions through it, then I'm going to be fleeting between this keynote, as it were, and some examples. I'm going to be doing some demoing, obviously, over the next 2 hours. So if you're going to stick around, then that's great. Bed in, and we'll get started. So looping 101, why actually do looping with a loop pedal? Well, first of all, it's hands-free. So what you can do is you can actually, loop completely hands-free. And let me just do that. There we go. Is that better? Let me know if that's better, or if you prefer that there's the mini JP. Either say this or mini JP. Put it in the comments over, basically, and I'll see it in the chat. But why a loop pedal? Well, the thing is, if you're a guitarist, if you're playing keyboards, if you're a saxophonist, if you're playing any instrument with your hands and your hands are busy, then the great thing is it's on the floor and you can use your feet. There's the ultimate creativity, and the thing of having any kind of looper, let alone just a loop pedal, but any looper is ultimate creativity. Now you can actually figure out whether a harmony works, or whether you've got basically certain things going on in a 3-chord progression, which is really, really good. The third thing, of course, is performance enhancement, as it says right there. Nearly did that wrong then. There we go. Right there, performance enhancement. So if you think about this works. Okay, cool, fantastic. You like this look? Nice. So performance enhancement is kind of the thing where you've got, obviously, you go to an open mic night, there's lots of people with a guitar, and then they get on stage with a microphone, and then you come along, and even if you just put a thud down, and then you play over the top of that, it adds an extra element. If you start doing full-blown looping, where you're adding lots of different things, of course, it's going to add a completely different kettle of fish. Performance enhancement-wise, I'll let you know now, in the past, I've gone into things like competitions. I've gone into Battle of the Band competitions, and I've become a finalist of 2 competitions, which are Battle of the Bands, and I've beaten things like 4- and 5-piece bands with a looper on my own. So I got to the final because of that, because it actually, regardless of whether you think it's saturated or not, because I don't believe it is, it's actually really unique, and it's still unique to this day. So the thing is, people go, oh, it's looping. They know what it is now because of Ed Sheeran and Katie Tunstall and all those kind of people. But then the great thing is, it's kind of like, how well do you do it? How well do you transfer across? So you can enhance your performance from just basically, dare I say, just a guitar and vocals to obviously, put down something like harmonies, or put down melodies, or you put down a chord structure, a new melody over the top of it, so you can really enhance your performance. The fourth one is a little bit me being cheeky, which is cost effective. The drummer actually, and the bassist, and the guitarist, and the backing singers all turn up. Because it's you. So the great thing is, of course, you can obviously use that to your heart's content. That's just me being cheeky. Now, the other thing as well is, obviously, a great comment here, which obviously is from one of the major people of looping. Looping is a form of freedom. And it is. Ed Sheeran said this, and it's one of these things where you're able to just basically elaborate if you want. You can stop it, you can undo it, you can do all these different things, and you can actually there's lots of people you'll see on YouTube and other social medias, they'll just go ring, 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 and they're playing, and you're just bored of watching it. But the fact is, you can actually take that and do a completely different thing. The other thing as well is, lots of my songs have actually come from looping. They've actually come from thinking of a progression. And if you think of any 4, 3, 6, 12, progression, then you actually are looping. Dance music is looping, really. So you've got all these different progressions, and you could put them into a looper. Now, depending on obviously what you're doing, you saw me at the beginning there using a 6-track loop. I used 4 of those tracks. You don't have to go that hard. You don't have to actually do that. You could just have a 1-track looper. And of course, depending on how you play with it, you can actually do lots of different things. You can figure things out, hence why looping is a form of freedom. Now, moving on to this, there's different uses. So excuse me 1 sec. It's very warm in here. Different uses. So different uses for looping. The first one is actually just practice. Even if you're not going to be using a looper on stage, you actually use it at home for practicing. Maybe you can't actually meet up with your band or your drummer or the bassist every week. You meet up like once a month because, you know, life and family and kids and mortgage, whatever. But you actually meet up once a month, but actually you could use it for practicing your precision, your actual precision, your technique. You can see the 6 there, your technique. Basically, the other thing as well with technique is you can actually slow things down. So you can actually record it slower. Like let's say where you're doing a ripping solo with a band, you can actually record the chord structure slower, so you can go and then when you actually go back to the band, you go you can go faster because you've got it right. Harmony wise, of course, that's a given. You can actually figure out if harmonies work. So if I was to just go to the looper now and went la 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 la, so I can figure out whether the harmonies work. I really enjoy finding harmonies or finding different intonations. You'll see that a lot when I loop with things like the 505. But with the floor bass, you can do exactly the same. Rhythm, again, is with precision, so you can actually practice your rhythm technique as well as your precision. And also, the last 2 are going against that, which is actually improvisation and creativity. So, of course, you can actually improvise. You know, you put a 4-chord structure down. You could go, well, I need to figure out how I'm going to do a solo for the band. Well, you can actually have that 4-part. You can't get the band to go, right, play for 10 minutes those 4 chords and be like, oh my God, this is boring. Whereas actually at home with a looper, you can actually improvise because that's just going round and round and round. Or maybe you're improvising the idea of something. So you're actually improvising the idea of a brand new song and you just need to figure out maybe what's coming next. Looping can really help with that. Therefore, with all these other 5 things, this can actually help practice and spark your creativity. If you're familiar with the channel, you'll know that I do a weekly live stream. Hello, this is it. Hi, welcome. And some of the weeks, what I do is I actually get things like a tabletop looper and I just go nuts. I don't actually have anything pre-recorded. I don't have anything pre-planned. I just put stuff in and that's it. So that's a real good push actually out of your boundary, and it scared the bejesus out of me actually doing it very first time. But the fact is, actually, I really enjoy it because it means that it's a great scratch board for me to create new things. And then I've even gone back onto my live stream. How did I do that? I just did it in the moment and just made stuff up. But this is great because I can go back in time and just actually watch it. So there we go. Creativity. Of course, if you're recording yourself, you're recording the loops, you can create some really, really cool things. So the next thing as well is inspiration. So we're going to get to a couple of demos in a minute, but what I'm just talking about is the reasons why you would have a looper. So inspiration, innovation, creativity, motivation, inspiration itself, expression, and discovery. Now, all of these different things, of course, actually lay on. I nearly did it again. Then I went over there, and I mean over there because it's mirrored. There we go. These, all that means is with inspiration, the innovation that you actually get from it and the creativity you get from it, it can then motivate you to find new inspiration. So they kind of are circular in that way, pun intended, because we're talking about looping. And of course, you can expand on your expression. You might not realize how you play until you put it into a looper and you go, oh God, I actually proper rag that really hard. And actually maybe you need to soften that off a little bit. Or you maybe realize that actually when you do your harmonies, you're right up here in the mic when you should be a little bit back here. So you discover how you play and how you add your layers on. So inspiration, you can be self-inspired. by doing that. And of course, I started a loop once, which was this. That was the whole loop. I actually didn't do it with the bass. I could have just had this thing humming around in my brain from a trip that we did, and I ended up getting it turned into a song called Boss Castle. So that is the whole loop, and it's kind of now I can't sing the lyrics while I'm doing that, but of course, if I just put this down of so now that's going, I can just sit there and go, as the stream turns into ocean, boats rise and defy the tide. And I can start figuring out what the song is whilst it's going along in the background. So if you're not actually familiar with kind of the politics of bands, then what can happen is, you can go, oh, I don't want to do that right now. I want to play this song. No, I want to play this song. Well, it's all on you, baby. You can literally do whatever you want at that point because you're in charge of it. You can delete it if you want to. The next part of this is performance. Now, of course, obviously improving your performance, your showmanship, your engagement, your flair by being more confident because you've actually got timing down. You may not bring the looper on stage with you, but actually by practicing your timing, being a bit more, obviously, a bit more flair, a bit more showmanship. I'm not saying, obviously, you have to be out there and go, ha, and, go mental, but, a little bit more showmanship because what else is going on. Oh, you love that song. What, Boss Castle? You're talking about Boss Castle. Thank you very much. The other thing as well is obviously the versatility of this, and then also the impact. So of course, if you do bring a looper on stage, the versatility. Now I actually could just sing everything harmony. I could just or a cappella. I could actually sing with effects like you've heard me do there. So we could have like a radio effect going on. We could have a normal effect. We could have these, and then bringing in. Let's turn them off. Bringing in lots of different sounds into the soundscape, as it were, a bit more versatility, a bit more impact onto the audience themselves. Think of yourself as a performer. We're talking about, obviously, how you'd use looping. Now, of course, you've got showmanship, and that can be mixed with arrogance. And I don't mean it in that way. I mean, look at me, I'm great. I don't mean it like that. I mean showmanship as in being able to work an audience, also read the audience as well. You got your head down looping, and you look up and they're all like this. This is boring. Get to the point, mate. So you learn things like that from a performance point of view of, are people just going, yep, I know what you're going to do now. Just add the bass and add all the harmonies and let's get on to the first verse, shall we? So things like that obviously do make a big difference. Here's another quote for you. Black Horse of the Cherry Tree came directly from learning how to use my loop pedal. Katie Tunstall, musician. Now then, let's talk about the first loop, what I like to call the first loop. Over the 3 days of the course, this is the pretty much golden rule, which literally is, I've just seen that now, Chris, thank you. I'm sure it comes up very different actually on YouTube, but of course on ReStream when I use it, it doesn't actually show it. Never mind, I hope it does. The first loop, literally you'll see this. Timing is everything. In fact, everything. Timing is everything. There we go. So you get the point. Timing is everything, and the very first loop is the most important one. Now, if you're just joining us, we're actually going over what I call the Loop Pedal Workshop. This is day 1 of a 3-day course, which we'll do for 2 hours a day. And if you are interested in me doing the course again, I'm only going to be doing day 1 today because each day is 2 hours long. If you're interested in me doing the course, if you're interested in doing the Loop Pedal Workshop, then let me know in the comment section below. And obviously, I'm pointing over there because that's where my chat is, but you can't see it. But obviously, wherever you've got a chat, we are live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Thank you for that. On Twitch, on LinkedIn, and X as well. And then, of course, the other thing as well, before we carry on to the first loop, this live stream is sponsored. It's sponsored by our friends over at DistroKid. DistroKid are a music distribution company. So maybe you're doing looping, you're actually recording it into songs, and you're like, hey, man, I'm going to release this. Well, you need a music distributor. So these guys, let me get this right, those guys there, if you scan the QR code, that'll give you 7% off your first annual membership with DistroKid because they do it on a subscription basis. So it's normally $22.99 a year, so you can release as much music as you want to for an entire year. You can release albums up to 35 tracks per album if you really, 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 really want to. You could release acoustic albums. You could release a studio album. You could release loads and loads and loads and loads of singles, and it'll cost you less than $22 because we're going to give you 7% off. How good's that? So thank you very much to DistroKid for sponsoring this live stream. And if you do want to actually not do the loop pedal workshop, but you want to actually get my course on how to loop, the very basics literally is how to loop like a pro. That is my basics course. It's actually 2 courses smashed into one, and it's $149, but we've got a code. It's been scrolling across at the ticker there at the bottom, $30 off the course with the words loop like a pro. Go to that QR code, which is just there, or go to jumponmusic.co.uk and put the code loop like a pro in on how to loop like a pro, and you will get $30 off for $119. Right, let's go back over to what we were talking about. Hang on a sec. I'm really tempted to put my drink on this really wobbly table, but it's a really wobbly table, so what can I say? Right, timing is everything. So let me just go over what I mean by this, and we're going to go over a little bit of a demo. So timing is basically, and I'm trying to talk whilst doing this. There we go. Timing is literally everything. Hello. So timing is everything when it comes to looping. And what I mean by that is you've got to get the first loop down. You've got to get the timing down. You really, really have, because I'm going to give you a bad example, which is harder to do. And I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. So we should end up with a bit of a march, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4. That didn't sound right, and that's because I didn't tap it at the point where I need to. So what I want to do is I actually want to do a little bit of a practice with you, and it's a bit of a strange practice, but when I've taught this to people face-to-face, when I've taught this to people online, everyone gets it. So hopefully you'll get this with me. With your feet, when you're thinking of actually playing the guitar, then of course, if you actually think about the bar, what I call bar 1, beat 1. So let's go over a 4-chord sequence, okay? Let's take the capo off. Right then, so. You can probably guess what that tune is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clap. Now what I normally do in this when we've got a bit more time is actually before we even get to a guitar or anything like that, what we do is we do exactly what I'm doing right now. And even though I'm talking, in the back of my mind, I'm trying to keep as rhythmic as I can. I'm trying to keep as rhythmic as I can, okay? So it's even good to try and talk other things whilst doing that, because try and actually distract yourself. But if you're playing guitar, then of course the first thing you do normally on chords is you strum down. So therefore, this is actually, imagine your foot doing the clapping, like boom, 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 boom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. And plie. No, I'm joking. So what you've got is you've actually got on the 1, 2, 3, 4, as opposed to 2, 3, or 4, if that makes sense. Then what you're going to do is you're going to strum down. So I'm doing a G here. Actually go up there. There. Guitar's a little bit out of tune, but don't worry. So, and what I want to do is I want to actually hit it so I can actually go on to bar one, beat one. So bar one, beat one is the real pinnacle point where you need to actually hit the looper. Now, I've got an RC600. Don't let that discourage you. You can maybe want to go out and get an RC600, that's fine. But if you haven't got a looper there, any looper, it doesn't matter whether it's a one-bar looper, a one-phrase looper, sorry, or a six-phrase looper. If loop number one is not down, it's not going to sound any good. It's as simple as that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So listen to the end of the phrase. You can see it there. And let's go even simpler than that. Let's just put in beatboxy hi-hats. So, okay. Replace 1, 2, 3, 4 with a 1, 2, 3, 4, and so there we go. So the fact is you need to actually go on the downbeat, on the 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what happens 99% of the time is guitarists especially, and these are guitarists who've been guitaring for 20, 30 years, 10 years, whatever. They'll go, I know my guitar, I can melt your heart with playing guitar. They can't get looping down. And the reason for this is because you panic around about bar 4. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and you literally, and it's actually that panic. And you need to do basically what a good friend of mine, a good looping friend of mine, Carl Wachner, you need to do what Carl does, which is basically what he likes to call sitting in the groove. And you need to get used to making your own grooves. And that's even just with regarding looping, that's fine, but you need to go back to the and 1. So whether you're going 6/8 or you're going 12/4, whatever, it doesn't matter. You need to get back to the and 1. So you're pressing the button down on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. And you're pressing the button the second time. Now that's just for a one phrase bar. But what we're going to do is we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Now that loops in time, everything else will match up. It really will, as long as you've got the right looper or if you've got the right things you're doing. So even if I completely mess something up, which we'll get into later. 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just got to play in time to yourself. Now, you'll notice that with actually playing, I do a lot of different things. So I do a lot of different things to help me keep in time. And we'll get into that in a sec. It depends on what you're doing. It depends on... Ooh, just moved my entire screen. That was really clever. Depends on what you're doing, and it depends... Oh, there we go. It depends on what you're doing. It depends, obviously, how you play. You may not be a guitarist. You may be a saxophonist, or you may be doing something else. So there may be lots of different things you can use. So you can use things like a separate beat. You can use beatboxing. So when I say a separate beat, you've got something else that's being fed in as a beat. You've got beatboxing. You've got what I've done, which is... This is what I call rhythmic strumming. And then you've also got onboard drums. Now, a lot of loopers now actually come with a rhythm section or an onboard drum of some kind. So let's go over it. A separate beat. You might have something like a Beat Buddy where that starts off, and that's actually MIDI synced over to the looper, and then you can actually then just start looping, and then it just predominantly keeps it in time. And most of the time now they actually quantize, which is very clever. So depending on what you need, you can actually, use that to control the looper, which helps a lot. Now, the two that are completely sort of like on their own, as it were, not using any other electronic help, is, of course, beatboxing. I don't really say I beatbox as such. I kind of do, but I kind of just make noises to get away with it. And the other one is rhythmic strumming. So I might start off by just, as I said before, like obviously doing hi-hats. But the thing is, I won't want to do hi-hats going... It's boring. And also, you're more likely to mess up. You're more likely to get out of time with yourself. Whereas if you go... You're creating a loop. You're creating a groove in that loop. And you go... Noises like that, okay? Now, I'm no beatboxer. Go and look at things like Swizz Beats, a YouTube channel if you want to have a look at some of the best beatboxers in the world. I am certainly not. But the other thing as well, you don't have to put everything down. You can actually put them down in bits because it's a looper, right? So you can literally just loop the first bit and loop the second bit. So you can just do it like this. Now, I'm going to use rhythmic strumming so I can actually... It's a little bit like a hi-hat when I do this. So I actually put my fingers over either above the 12th fret on my guitar. It's slightly different on electric guitars. You have to be really careful with electric because, of course, you can get, like, obviously a lot more harmonics. With an acoustic, you can mute this. If I push too hard, then you're going to... That's not what you want. So... And I'll always do at least one before I hit the looper. And the reason for that is getting into the groove. So, 1, 2, 3, and... Now, my looper actually goes from record straight into overdub. And we'll cover overdub in a minute, but you can hear that at the beginning. And that's actually an indication for me to know where I am within that groove. So if I hear that that's kind of the end of the groove, and I'll put that towards the end. So and then overlap the beginning. Now I've got that down. It's kind of easy. You just go boots and cats, right? So I'm going to put this on the same loop as if we've got a one-phrase looper. And there's my beat. Now, there's loads of different ways to do this, of course. And the other thing as well is it totally depends on what you're doing. Maybe you're not doing anything like the way I do it. Maybe you're using nothing but synthesizers. So use things like the MIDI and things like that to actually get the best out of what you want to use it for. So, things like that. Now, the final one, of course, is things like the onboard drums. The onboard drums can really, really help out. And things like the modern loopers now, you've got an option, certainly in the Boss pedal loopers, for example, where you've actually got a system called Before Loop. And I've done a video about this on the channel. If you're interested in what Before Loop is, go and have a look at ways you can actually use Before Loop. What it does is basically you press a button, the rhythm starts, and the looper is armed, but it's not recording. And then when you press it a second time when you're ready, it then comes down to record on bar 1, beat 1. So even if you press it a little bit early, it kind of goes, oh, okay, yeah, just wait till bar 1, beat 1, and then I'll start recording, because that's what they meant. And then it's just a lot easier. So you've got onboard drums on a lot of them. There's even the really basic loopers. You've got things like my brain's gone dead. The Donna Circle looper, things like that. That's got like a one phrase looper and a rhythm section. And you've got over like 100 rhythms to play with. And a lot of them, you can save the rhythm to the loop memory. So you then, obviously, that's your looper for that, which is really, really cool and really, really nice to do. Now, the other thing as well is, of course, recording the first loop. You've seen me obviously go to record. And then by default, normally on this loop station, as it were, it goes over to play. And what that does, of course, is it just plays, which means that I can play over the top. It's not recording me. But then the other thing as well is you've got record, play, and overdub. And overdub, basically what it means is being able to actually record on top of the previous recording. Now, the good thing about this is a lot of the loopers now, certainly in 2024 and beyond, you've got unlimited overdubs. The quality is there, even for the really basic loopers. And it used to be that when you recorded an overdub on the older loopers, and I say older loopers, I'm saying plus 10, 15 years ago, you actually had to, you could overdub, but what would happen is the very first recording would actually go down in volume a little bit. And this was actually a feedback delay. And what would happen is it would actually delay slowly and slowly. So as you add more and more things on, the very first thing you recorded is actually a lot lower in the mix. And that's actually to stop it overloading. Now you don't have that unless you specifically want it in things like a delay pedal or in a tape delay pedal, which you can actually have as an option now, which is crazy to think it's an option. And I realize why, because maybe you want to go, add sort of like ambient sort of like twiddly stuff, and then you want the old twiddly stuff to go away. And I get that. But then with looping, overdubbing now, it's the same level. So the other thing you have to be aware of is your level and your volume. So as you record something in, which we've now done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go back to our initial loop, okay? And let me just change the screen so you can see what I'm doing. That one and that one. Let me know how this is, by the way. Let me know how, if you are getting value out of this, then just hit the like button for me underneath the video. That really helps me and it helps the channel. Thank you very much. So we're now actually doing this where we're going, obviously, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. That's better. 1, 2, 3, 4, forever. It's going to do this. Okay. Now, to overdub, all I need to do is press the record button again on the same phrase. Now, you have to be careful with this. If you have a look at that circle going round, 1, 2, 3, 4. I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4 on that one phrase. This is why multi-track loopers exist, because I can have a one-phrase looper doing the beat, and I can have a four-phrase looper on the second track. So, for example, if I was to actually then go, that's too long. I need to be double the length. So if you've only got a one-phrase looper, you need it to be double that length, okay? So I've just realized you can't hear the guitar. There we go. So if I was to go... So I need two of them. So if you've got a one-phrase looper, you need to be careful with that, okay? So I can't actually do that. So the answer to that would actually be, certainly on a one-phrase looper, is to put double the recording length down. So you'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and press. Okay? I hope that makes sense. But we've obviously got this as a multi-phrase looper. But for now, we're just going to do overdub. So I'm actually just going to do kick and snare, boots and cats. So you press play. And when you're ready, you can hit overdub. Now, the great thing about the overdub is you don't have to hit it in time. You can press it anywhere within the loop, and it's open. So I'm going to open it and close it really quickly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 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 So that's our loop. Now, what I was going to say before we got rudely interrupted was I put a couple of loops down and a couple of overdubs down. So there's actually 4 there. So we've got the initial. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You got the. And you heard me go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you heard me the boots and cats. And then I actually picked up the shaker just here and shaked it. Now, if I wanted to actually take away the yeah, 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 and when I want to take that away, I can't. Because actually in the list of things that you can do, where you go literally 1, 2, 3, 4, it's number 2 in the overdubs. You can only take away the last overdub, okay? And that's an undo. But we can get to that obviously later on. So record play demo, obviously we've done that, that's fine, let me just move on. Obviously with record play, and then, you know, you've got basically record play and erase. Now, of course, when I record it and I play it, when we get to a point where we're actually doing the loop, we're all fine, we've got everything we want down, you're literally just getting to the point where you're going stop and start. So we're actually just stopping the loop and we're starting the loop again, and that's it. So, yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're okay. So what you've got there is you've actually got. Hang on a minute. Can someone please in the chat just say the word hello? Just humour me. Just in the chat, just go hello. Someone, anyone, please, to help me out to make sure this is still working. Just say the word hello. Because I need to make sure this is working before we carry on, because it just glitched for a second there. Hello. We're working, fantastic. So yes, we had thank you very much, just humour me. Hello Piers. Hello Adrian. Hello Tainted. Fantastic, thank you so much for that. So we had a little bit of a glitch, but obviously that was just 1 or 2 minutes. So, you know, think of it as a time to go for a wee and grab a drink. Fluid intake, fluid outtake. So your very first loop is the most important loop, as we were saying before. And then you can overdub as many times as you want. And then when you've finished overdubbing on that loop, you just basically go record, play, erase, record, you know, literally record, play. And then you may stop it, you may start it. And then when you're finished, you're going to erase it. Simple, right? Now, the thing is, it's not that simple because it depends on the looper that you've got. Some loopers will actually let you erase things and you won't ever hear it again. Some loopers, when you've stopped something and you hit erase, it will play for a bit, about half a second, okay? And this is why on my loop setup, I've got 2 different things. You can actually hold down the stop button on an RC600, for example, and that will erase it silently. But the other thing as well is you may notice this thing here, I'm pointing with my foot. This is a volume pedal, and it's actually designed for the volume of the loops. So actually as I pull it down, and then I erase, if I hold this one down, it'll play for a second and then erase. Listen to this, I'm going to erase it now. Yeah. And then it erases. Do you see that? Now, cheaper loopers, smaller loopers will actually do this as well. So you have to be very careful with that. Just in the chat, go for just let me just put them all up. Hello. Just humour me. Yes. Hello. And then we go. Just in the chat, just go, hello. Yes. Thank you very much. And the thing is, obviously, depending on what you're doing loop-wise, you may actually want to, obviously, erase it. And then, of course, carry on to the next song. The other alternative, of course, is you've got, with a lot of these loopers now, you've got memories. So what that means is you could save that loop at home and then just bring it back up again so you can actually restart it whenever you like. Pierre says, generally, I prefer record, overdub, play. That's what I do as well. So with the RC600, I've actually got that, and the RC505, I've got that as well. So with my loopers, I much prefer that because you can create loops a lot faster, okay? So, of course, when you start looping, and we're talking about how to loop the basics, and this is actually all part of the loop pedal workshop that I did in November. This is day 1. If you are interested in seeing the full 3 days, by the way, let me know in the comment section below or in the chat. And then what we'll do is we may obviously put it back on again. It's 3 days of talking about looping, of how to loop, and then going obviously for about 2 hours a day. And the price for that is $49. So if you are interested in doing that, you can do that, no problem at all. The other thing you can do as well, obviously in... you'll see just here, we've actually got $30 off my How to Loop Like a Pro course. That is actually, even though it says the word pro in it, we go from the very basics. So if you're interested in the basics, then just head over to johnpaulmusic.co.uk and then you can find How to Loop Like a Pro. Put the word Loop Like a Pro in and you'll get $30 off. Or just scan that QR code and it's already there. That's the actual link with the $30 built in. well, taken off, built in, taken off, then that's the right one for that as well. So there we go. So yeah, so basically what you can do now is you can obviously go, you've got your record, you've got your play, you've got your overdub. What have I just done? There we go. And then, of course, you're going to erase it. Now, you can erase it, or what you can do is you can save it. Now, we've got, obviously, a couple of different things. We've got an erase, and I just showed you erase and record demo. I've just erased it there just to show it you. Now, obviously, from record, play, and erase, the other thing as well is play and stop, and then overdub. So once you've actually got your first loop down, then what you're going to do is you're actually going to go over to play and stop, and then you're just going to overdub when you need to. Now, we're talking about things like a one-phrase looper, or maybe even a two-phrase looper, and you've got to think and plan ahead about, you know, what the beat's going to be, or what the rhythm's going to be, or what you're going to put down on track 1, or what you're going to put down, if you've got a two-phrase looper, on track 2, and how long it's going to be. So in that respect, what we're going to do is we're actually going to obviously just showcase a little bit about, oops, sorry. We're going to show, I'm all fumbled now. There we go. We're going to showcase just this option. Let me put it that way around. That's probably better. That's what you want, isn't it? There. So I'm going to showcase, obviously, putting a one-phrase loop down. And then on the second phrase, that's on here, by the way. So we've got record and play and overdub and stop. Now, some loopers will actually not have, they'll have just one pedal. So you've got things like double tap to stop, or like things like the RC5 or the Donna Circle looper, or something like that. So I'm going to put down a one-phrase looper. Now you can hear that's really short. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. And that one's double a length. Now, the nice thing with a two-track looper or more is you can turn individual loops on and off, so we can make it a little bit more dynamic. Go! So there we go. So depending on what you're using it for or how you're doing it, you can actually, use the looper for lots of different things, depending on whether you're, recording, playing and stopping, and then overdubbing. And the overdubbing doesn't have to always happen at the very beginning of the track. So many artists do this, and so many artists actually do this thing where they go, right, I've got every bit of loop that I need to put down. They put all the loops down, and then they start singing the song. And I'll admit, I was guilty of this as well. And, sometimes depending on the track, you only need 1 or 2 loops, and that's fine. But if you've got like 7 or 8 loops to put down, by the time you've done this, you're like 2 or 3 minutes in, and the audience, certainly if you're looking at basically things like the audience, and, they look up and they're just like, what's going on here, timing-wise? So things like that you need to really, really be careful of, because obviously then, recording and overdubbing, that's fine. And I always say, put the skeleton stuff that you can dip down, get into the first verse, and then add the overdubs as you go on. It doesn't have to be the whole thing just before you get going, unless obviously it's a big, big thing, you're trying to create a groove, and I get that. But have a look at actually adding the loops in between, okay? Now, you've also got, obviously, record, play, overdub, and stop, of course, to stop the loop. And then the other thing as well, of course, after that, is you've got undo. And record, play, overdub, and undo, this is part of what I was talking about before, which actually is really, really important. What you need to do is to undo, depending on which one you've got. You can have undos with separate buttons and all that kind of jazz. But most loopers with undos, what they'll do is they'll have like a hold down for a couple of seconds. And these are really important. I'm just going to erase these loops. We're going to create a loop, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo it. Now, why do you need an undo? I'll show you why. Let me just change this over. Try not to trip up as well. Hang on. Boom, boom, can you hear that? Quite funny, but I've just made a mistake. I've just got something caught in my throat. I've coughed whilst I'm doing beatboxing, and then you're like, what is that? So, of course, with overdubbing, you can undo the last recording. So, as the first recording goes in, we've added another recording because we've gone straight to overdub. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to hold down the record play button, and that'll undo the last recording, or that coughing, that fake beatboxing. So I'm just going to start it playing now. Hold it down for 2 seconds, and it's all gone. Okay, it's gone. It's taken the last recording off. Now, let me just show you that, obviously, in a timed environment, because if I made a mistake and then I undo it, you can undo really quickly. So you can actually go, there's our first recording. And then if I carried on going boom, boom, you can almost do it seamlessly, almost. Okay, if you're really, really good at it, you can actually then just get back into the groove really quickly. Now, another thing you can do with undo is you can undo, as I said before, the last recording. Now, that doesn't mean the last loop. I actually kept the overdub open there for 3 loops. So I did the bum, 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 and it's harmonies, okay? And also the actually it was 4 loops. That sort of new hi-hat noise, and then the harmonies. So we've got this. Now, if you do an undo again, it's going to take all of them away. The great thing about that is, of course, you can expand. So I can put a harmony in, and then when I get back onto it, I can go and hold down for 2 seconds and bring it back in. Hold down for 2 seconds, and it's gone. Now, you have to be really clever with the timing, and certain loopers will actually let you have a dedicated undo or redo button. So, for example, on the 0600, it is actually this one when you go into the 3rd mode and all that jazz. I'm not going to confuse you with that. But what you can do is you can actually undo and redo creatively. And by doing that, what that means is that you're actually, kind of exploiting the undo redo, as it were, which is really, really cool because it means you can actually start playing with it. So you've got an undo, and it's useful for mistakes. It also extends the looper by having sort of extra layers. And, most have unlimited, as I say, so the undo, you can actually undo as many times you need to. So you can undo the last recording and then bring it back. And if you've got a looper that's got multiple layers, you can actually undo each one. So I actually did another video on YouTube, which was called 4 Looperish. So that was actually using the RC500, which is a 2-track looper, and then having 2 other tracks on top and then just undoing each one. So then technically you're doing 4 loops, as it were. It is 2 loops with 2 undos, but, it kind of works really, really well. And if you plan your loops ahead, you plan what you're putting down on the loop, that's half the battle, because actually it's the last recording. It doesn't have to be the last loop, it can be the last recording. So we can actually put things down. I can have a 1-phrase looper, put obviously all the stuff I want to put down during a verse, put the chorus stuff down, and then you take the chorus stuff away, and they could bring it back again. So things have like an undo redo. When you get like products that have got a really simple loop and they haven't got an undo redo, I'm a little bit sad because actually that can actually be really, really creative. So the other thing obviously is that undo and the redo. So now what I've done is, of course, if I just bring that back now, this obviously is the opposite of that. So what I've got now, I'll just bring this back again. There we go. Let's change the camera. I need keystrokes for all of these. It'll be quite useful. So you can hear that there. I just hold it down again. There it is. If you get the timing right, you can actually turn it off on bar 1, B1, which is really cool. Or, of course, if you've got a dedicated button, you could have a dedicated button for undo, redo. Maybe you've got things like an FS6 or an FS7 pedal. Or some loopers will actually give you like a dedicated undo, redo, which is really, really handy. And I think now, as sort of other products come out with loopers built into them, an undo, redo, I think, is actually should be part of the basics technically. Certainly for creativity, I think it's something that is really, really valuable. So, let's go over this. We've actually done record, we've done play, we've done overdub, we've done stop, we've done undo, redo, we've done erase. Now it's time to save. Now the thing with save, of course, is what you can do is a lot of loopers will actually let you save. Did I just do that on full screen? There we go. What they can obviously save to different memories, and these memories are actually a lot of them have multiple memories. Even really, really basic loopers. There's a basic looper which is made, which I did a review on. Goodness me, I can't remember the name of them now. They do a really basic looper. It's got like nine memories on board, which is really cool because actually you can just save 9 different loops. Now maybe you don't want to actually do a beatboxing and everything at home, but you just want to take out a couple of beats with you. You haven't got a beat buddy, but you've got the looper. A looper is significantly cheaper, of course. So certainly a one-phrase one, like a ditto looper or a really cheap £50 looper. And even things like, £50, £60 loopers, you can get ones with like 40 memories on board, which is really, really cool. So you can actually save all these loops and then you could just use it as a playback machine. So the great thing is you save it. Now the downside you need to be aware of is a lot of the loopers, most of the loopers, when you do save, then what happens is it actually takes away the facility to do the undo, redo of the overdubs. So that's just something to really bear in mind for your performances. Because if you go, cool, I've got it all saved, and then else I'll just start playing and I'll undo, you won't, because it's all saved as like one loop. So what's better to do is actually get the basics down, save that, and then you can overdub live. And then you can undo and redo it live. So that's probably the better thing to do. Just wanted to touch on that a little bit because it's one of these things where I've actually come up across this where people said, cool, I've created everything and I've saved it all and I've got all these different memories for all these different things. They get to their gig and everything's there. And I mean everything, the stuff that they didn't want, a lot. So an undo and a redo is definitely, expanding a very restrictive looper. And I think I've just gone and looked at the chat. There we go. Undo redo is a little like giving you a restricted extra loop. It is. It absolutely is. You're absolutely right. And I do think, obviously, as I say before, people are bringing out these sort of like, products with loopers built in. An undo redo is now paramount. I think it should be there, definitely. So for those who've actually stuck around, obviously saving it, the other thing as well is saving a loop is because you want to obviously do that live, and that's fine. But maybe you just want to save it just to listen back. Now you may just want to know, how loud was I performing that thing? And of course, when you sing in your head, and I've got like headphones on right now, I've got sort of like a wireless body pack, it does not sound how you guys can hear it because of the frequency range of this and the frequency range of what you're listening to. So you may want to hear that back just to go, God, I was really, really loud when I went, yeah, and and actually, listen to that back so you actually maybe step back a little bit as you put like louder sounds in, and you're going to improve your game by listening to yourself back. Another good friend of mine who is having a wonderful trip around Bali at the moment, all over his Instagram, is David Shannon. And one of David Shannon's things that he said on the How Do You Loop podcast was just film yourself looping and then watch it back. And that's actually a really, really great tip. But also, if your looper can handle it, record the whole thing. Record yourself, or plug your looper into your audio interface, and you can just plug yourself in and record it. But saving the memory, of course, you want to listen to it back to make sure you've got the levels right. And also, therefore, saving to improve. So you want to actually improve what you're doing. You may want to save to embellish, as we talked about before. So you would save it as a skeleton track. So therefore, you then take it to a gig, the basics is there, and then you add stuff on top of it. Or you go, do you know what? Like, it's nothing to do about gigging. It's actually just there as a creation tool at home. And you just want to go, I've got this tune in my head. I just can't get it out. I just need to get it down somehow. Put it on a looper. And the great thing is, if you do it in time, you can then start embellishing on top of that. So maybe you can go, right, I've got a bass line for this now, and I've got a harmony. All of a sudden, a song is born. And that is actually one of the most fleeting moments that you need to capitalize on, definitely. So save to embellish and save to improve, of course, is very, very important. And the final thing is save to export. Now, if you've got something like an RC600 looper, or even if you've just got a basic looper, and you've put down this stellar beat, that you're really, really proud of, you put something, and that's your loop, and you put that down, and you're like, it's on the loop, and you're like, that's really cool, I really like that, and I'm really happy with that, I want to do something with it, then you can actually export it. A lot of these loopers now have a USB somewhere, and you can export it. For the really cheap ones that don't, plug it into your audio interface and hit record and just and play the loop, and then that way you can export it out and maybe be used in a song, used as a bit of a sample pack, as it were. So save to export is obviously, you want to save it obviously to export it out into something bigger. Now, this is your time for obviously Q&A. If you've got any major questions, then please let me know. This is the equivalent of day one in the loop pedal workshop, and we do 3 days of this, and if you are interested in doing that, then please obviously put it in the comment section or in the chat, let me know, and then obviously we'll look at doing this again, but obviously that is a 3-day course, 2 hours each day, and we do that for $49. However, if you obviously want to just learn at your own pace, as it were, then you can actually get my course, which is right here, which is How to Loop Like a Pro. This is a beginner's course and an intermediate, but we actually go into some advanced stuff as well, and we go right into rhythm and timing and loop number 1, as it were. It's normally $149, and it's actually, as I said before, 2 courses smashed into one. My beginner's course and Loop Like a Pro course is now just Loop Like a Pro. So it's $149 normally, but with the code Loop Like a Pro, you actually get it for $119. Now, I've been doing this of $119 for a while. It is going to go at some point. I'm going to keep it there for now because I don't want to obviously panic anyone. But at some point, we are going to bring it back up to $149 because we're going to add some stuff to it. I've got some stuff planned for How to Loop Like a Pro, and I think it's worth the value. So if you are on the fence about it right now, it's not going to go any cheaper than $119, then please grab it now. So thank you very much. Now, the other thing as well, of course, if you've got questions, now's the time to put them in, as I say. Let's go back over to that one. There we go. And we can actually have a look at the chat. Oh, hello. People are talking. That's good. This is a multi-chat, by the way. So if you want to have a little chat and say hello, we are live streaming on, obviously, YouTube, of course, on my Facebook page, on Twitch, on Instagram, and no, not Instagram, on LinkedIn and on Twitter, on X. So I tried to do the Instagram thing, but it's got to be, horizontal. So yeah, if you've got major questions, obviously now is the time. Let me obviously know any of your questions around looping or how to loop the basics, and we can go over them obviously right now. And I've got a couple of things obviously that Pierce is actually asking a question, so let's bring that up. Could you have the overdub version in its different memory and jump between them live? Yes, you could. In fact, I do that. In one track, I actually do that. So with things like the RC600, what you can do is you can actually... Oh, I've just knocked that. That was really clever. There we go. With things like the RC600, what you can do is you can actually do that where you've got 99 memories, so you can save as much as you like. And what you can do is you can actually then say, well, memory 1 is this and memory 2 is that, but then you have to embellish it on memory 2. If you save it on memory 1 as everything, and then save it as memory 2 as everything, you could do that live, and then as memory 1, you'd have to then take those bits away before you saved it. You know what I mean. So you'd have to save the skeleton version first on both, go to the second version, add it all in, and save that on top. So yes is the answer, but there's just a little bit of tomfoolery to get it done. Let's have a quick look at this. I got a TC Helicon Play Acoustic. Yeah, man. I like the Play Acoustic is brilliant. I love this thing. The body res sound is amazing. Got any tips for or tricks? I've got loads. I've got loads of tips and tricks. I know you mean for the TC Helicon Play Acoustic. I know that. I have the guitar out to XLR to 1/4 inch mono jack going into the RC600. Nice. So if you have a look at mine, which I will now bring back, boop, and let's just bring this even bigger. Wrong way. That way. Oh, my camera's moved slightly. How did I do that? Anyway, never mind. So my TC Helicon Voice Live Play Acoustic, but first of all, I can't let go of. I think they're just fabulous. The body res, the harmonies, they're great. I actually have it going into what's basically, if you have a look at the settings of it, what you can do is you can actually change it from stereo to dual mono. So what it does is it's literally DI. If you have a look at the very, very top of the Play Acoustic, you'll see voice 1 and guitar in DI mode. So if you put it into DI mode, then the great thing about that is you can actually use the XLRs. And then what I've done is, you may notice at the top here, I don't have any jacks going in. I've got 2 XLRs. So I'm using the mic inputs. One is the guitar, and one is the vocals. So the actual guitar is the red one, and I found I've got these lovely flat XLR cables, which are really nice. Can I remember the name of them? They're named Russell. Yeah, Russell. Rustle, RUSTLE. So have a look at them, because they're really nice, because you can get the right one. I think these are 30, just about 30 centimeter ones, but get longer ones, because depending on where you've got it. So if I put that over there, it literally is stretched from there to there. It's literally really, really short. But the great thing about that is, because then obviously if you're in XLR mode, then everything's separate. So to do that, this obviously is very specific to a TC Helicon Voice Live Play Acoustic. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to digitally zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. Now, to do this, tainted to make me take my microphone off the mic stand. This is serious. What you can do is, if I go back into here, you're going to hear a little bit of echo. If we go into setup, I've got my dynamic mic, go across, and it's this one, output. I hope you can see that there. It literally says voice/guitar DI. And then you'll notice basically at the top here, left is voice and right is guitar, and you can use them. And then I've actually got, as I said before, I've got these set up in such a way. Oh, I got that saved. Ooh, far too big. There's all my cables. There we go. Diddly diddly dee. And then we'll go diddly diddly dee. That's my feet. There we go. So I've actually got all my cables set up in such a way. So the XLR, it's just XLR. Literally, I knew that was going to happen. There we go. He says. Let's just move it digitally, forget it. There we go. The power of digital. Hopefully you can see that. Let's move it back a little bit. There we are. Right, so you can actually do that digitally. I'm going to move the mic stand now. It's going to mess it up, isn't it? Oh, JB. There we go. That's good enough. Right, let's go over to here. Yeah, so doing it by that, it means so much more because you're still getting the body res, you're still getting it all out. It is in mono, but it's definitely worth it. Yeah, they're nice, and it took me a long time to find them as well. I've been looking at sort of like flat XLR cables, but for a long time, and actually Russell reached out to me and they sent me some, so I'm really happy with them. They've been really good, and they are a permanent stage on my loop station. You'll also notice my cables here, they're the Boss cables. They're actually made by Boss themselves, but I've actually color coded them with Sugra, S-U-G-R-A. It's like plasticine that goes hard. So I've literally gone one red, one blue, literally like left and right. So I know, and when I hand it to a sound engineer, there's your left, there's your right. Right is red. There you go. Dead easy. Really handy. So it's cool. So let's have a quick look. Any other questions regarding, obviously, looping? Pierce, when you're going into a mixer, how do you route stuff from the RC600? Just stereo, or do you break the loops out into the engineer so they can adjust the balance? That's a very good question. And what I do is it's a mixture. So if I'm just doing like an open mic-y night and things like that, I'll do exactly what I'm doing right now, which is just a stereo out, as you can see there. It's just stereo left and right out, cable-wise, just obviously out to my audio interface so you guys can hear it. Or, obviously for things like this, I'm using an audio interface for a specific reason. But what I'll also do as well is I'll just go USB out. So USB-B to USB-C straight into the Mac, and then that's it. That is my is stereo out audio interface, and that's it. So what I hear coming out the RT600 is exactly the same as what you hear. However, you're absolutely right. When it gets to a point where obviously you're doing things on stage, then you have a couple of different options, and the option that I do is I actually have 4 out. So then what I do is I actually have the main left and the main right. I'll actually go, everything's in mono, by the way. So for this, so what I'll do is the main left will be the vocal, the main right will be the guitar, the sub 1 left will be the vocal loops, and the sub 1 right will be the guitar loops. Now, it doesn't matter whether like one's the bass, one's the drums. The engineer doesn't care about that. All they care about is basically which one is obviously the guitar and the vocals because of the different frequencies. So I'll do it like that. I have done it once where I've actually got a little multi-core, which I say little. It's like 8 in, 8 out kind of. I've got an 8-chord multi-core thing. And I've done it before, and it's just too much hassle. There's just far too much hassle to mess around with things like that. So I've actually basically 9 times out of 10, if I'm going to a bar or open mic night, stereo. Stereo out. If I'm doing like a pub gig, it's stereo out. It's as simple as that. Unless it's like a sit-down, ticketed event, and then that's when I'll do the 4 thing, and I'll just tell. We'll do a sound check, of course, because you've got the beauty of doing a sound check with a sound engineer, as opposed to you're using your PA and the rig, and then it's just you, and they go play Oasis. It's one of those things where it depends on the venue, it depends where you are, and also depends on the place. If the place is actually like an open mic night, but they've got a full blown engineer, great. So there's a place like that in Chester. There's a which is Alexander's, which is a fantastic venue, where even though it's an open mic night, it's like open mic night with sound engineer, which is fabulous. It feels really, really nice. So if you're just joining us, good evening. Welcome to the John Paul Music UK YouTube channel, but we're also on Facebook, on Twitch, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. Yeah, I said it right. Good sound engineers are a gift. Yes, they are. But bad sound engineers are a nightmare. If you're joining us, basically we're talking about how to loop the basics, and we've just been through what is the equivalent of day 1 of my How to Loop Like a Pro loop pedal workshop. So literally, it's a workshop that we normally do, which is 3 days long. And what we've done is we've just done day one. And if you want to dive deeper, of course, you can get How to Loop Like a Pro with obviously $30 off with the code Loop Like a Pro. But the loop pedal workshop we did a couple of times, and a couple of people who signed up for it, they got some real value out of it. And of course, we go over 3 days. So that you just got a basic version of day one. We go into much more detail. And it's 2 hours each day for 3 days. So, of course, it ends up being 6 hours with me, and then that's normally $49. The other thing you can do, of course, is you can get Loop Like a Pro. So if you want to get Loop Like a Pro, you can obviously, that is How to Loop Like a Pro is my basics and intermediate course. As I say, it's also a pro course as well, but the basics course got thrown in to Loop Like a Pro. We used to have one called Master the Basics, and that's now in there. So this is basically much better way than obviously just having multiple courses. Just have one with it all in, all about looping. And then the great thing is, if you want to grab it, basically we've got a discount code, $30 off. If you put the code Loop Like a Pro, if you want to go and grab it, it's at johnpaulmusic.co.uk, or what you can do is you can scan that QR code, and it's got the code built in, so the $30 instantly comes off. And I have said this code has been around for a while now, and this code is going to go. Now, it's not going to go just yet. I don't want to panic people, but it will go. So 119 is the cheapest it's ever going to be. So if you are on the fence about it, go grab it now, because I'm going to add some content. When I add that content, it's going to go back up to its normal price. Obviously to make it even bigger. So if you want to get obviously $30 off, it's Loop Like a Pro is the code, or scan the QR code, and that'll take you straight to the checkout with the $30 already off. Also, that one. Yes. Also, this live stream is sponsored. It's sponsored by our friends over at DistroKid. DistroKid is a music distribution company. So if you have got music that you are making and you want to put it out into the live streaming ether, then you can do. Now, we just created, we just released a couple of weeks ago a track which is called Whiskey Jar. Whiskey Jar has been out for a couple of weeks. If you haven't listened to it, then go and have a listen. And Whiskey Jar is basically, I've got it here somewhere. I'm panicking. There it is. Don't panic, JP. There it is. Whiskey Jar is obviously written by myself and released independently through DistroKid with the lovely vocal tunes of Joe McAdam. And Joe is the host of the Whiskey Jar Open Mic Night, and we were able to get him actually on the track, which is fantastic. So if you want to have a listen to that, it's available on all streaming sites, and this is one of the things you can do with DistroKid. So once you've released your music, you can do things like this. This is called a hyperfollow page. If you scan the QR code, just for curiosity, go and scan it and go and have a look. What you can then do is you can grab every release you do gets a hyperfollow page. Now, let's just say I'm on Apple Music, but all of you lot are on Spotify and Amazon Music or something like that, or Deezer, right? So I'm not going to try and convince you to go over to another service, but what I can do is I can actually show you where you can listen to it on your service. And that's what a hyperfollow page is. So this QR code I created actually has got Whiskey Jar in there, and you just go to the website, and that is the hyperfollow page. So if you want to actually sign up to DistroKid and release as much music as you want to, scan that QR code, and you can get 7% off your first annual membership with them, and you can release as much as you want in an entire year. So thank you very much to DistroKid for sponsoring this live stream. Now, we've got about 20 minutes left, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you mistakes. Now, this sounds a bit weird, but the thing about actually looping, the biggest thing, of course, is a mistake. And what can happen is people actually go, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's not for me. I can't loop. And that's because of mistakes and what mistakes happen and how to recover from them. And the biggest mistakes is normally the first loop. Mostly it's the first loop, because once you've actually got the first loop down, you're golden, really. And if you make a mistake on anything else, you can just undo it or turn it off. Pierce, care to give an overview of what's in day 2 and 3? Yes, certainly. In day 2 and 3, we actually have a thing which is called diving deeper. And then we actually go into technique a little bit more as well. So diving deeper is actually going into sort of a little bit more about using a multi-phrase looper. And then the technique is kind of actually song building. So actually building a song from sort of like multiple different phrases. Oh, thank you very much for scanning the QR code. That's very kind of you. Way. And then, yeah, so day 2 is diving deeper into utilizing a looper as it is and also multi-phrasing. And then day 3 is, as I say, song structure, but also things like this, things like I'm going to explain right now, like, for example, things that can happen when they go wrong. How do you recover from that? So yes, so that's what we do. So let's go back over to the looper so you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So obviously, you'll notice in a lot of my looping, I'll strum. I'll do like a guitar strum. So if I do something like this. I'm just getting the timing there, making sure I'm getting the timing right. That's the first thing. But I'm going to go. So I've got my first loop there. I made a mistake. Now because it's the first loop, and I did that deliberately by the way. Now because the first loop, I can instantly, instead of pressing play record again, and it actually plays back the loop, whilst you're still recording, you can actually erase the loop whilst recording. So I'll do that again just to show you. So we're recording right now, and I'm just recording my voice. And I'm gonna, oops, hold down. It never plays back, and you saw it flash there, so it's now erased. So now, it's 2 p.m. and I am sitting at this bar again, wondering if the rain will ever stop. British weather doing the best it can. They walk into town, it's 3 p.m. at the Whiskey Jar. Business lunches haven't got very far. Thought that I just saw your face again outside of the window pane. Guess not, I'll keep drinking, 'cause here at the Whiskey Jar, where people come and friendships go. We're at the Whiskey Jar, where Friday's fast and Sunday's slow. Here at the Whiskey Jar, I know that I can just be myself. Here at the Whiskey Jar, let's have another drink, it's 6 p.m. Now, right there, I forgot to press a button. And now I did that again deliberately. So what I'm going to do is I actually pressed all start stop and I go, we're at the whiskey jar, have another drink at 6 p.m. And I didn't press it hard enough. I just lightly tapped it. Now, if that happens, the show must go on. So you literally have to obviously just forget it and just kind of like, you know, you go, it's 6 p.m. It's 6 p.m. That doesn't sound very good. Whereas, of course, the audience, certainly if it's your own song, they don't know that that was wrong. So what you can do, of course, we go, you're at the whiskey jar, the drink at 6 p.m. Oh, I didn't press it. Bring it back in on the next one. So I wanted to go through that for you just to actually show that you can, you know, obviously if you miss a button, then, you know, don't worry about it. You can obviously, even if you are actually going to bring everything in again, I'm gonna drinking cars here at the whiskey jar. People come and friendships go here at the whiskey jar. For Friday's fast and Sunday's slow. Now the thing is, this actual song is a really short loop, as you've seen. So it's actually really, really short. So I can bring it back in really, really quickly. If you've got a big long 4-chord thing and you bring it back on the second chord, as it were, then you're going to be a whole bar out. Okay, so you have to be very, very careful of that. Got a question. If there's nothing else on the track, yet hitting undo can be quicker than deleting the track. Absolutely. Now the thing is, you can hit undo, of course. So if there's nothing on the track, if there's nothing else on the track, you can hit undo. But of course, the last one literally is not undo; it's erase anyway. So if you've actually got one recording on the track, and then there's nothing else there, if you undo it, you're actually not undoing it; you're erasing it. But yes, you're right. I mean, you can literally do that, and it's it could be quicker than deleting the track. It depends, obviously, what you've got on the track. So, for example, if I just go back to where's my little thing? There it is. If I go back to the vocals there, we're at the whiskey jar. Okay. We're at the whiskey jar. They're singing there. We're at the whiskey jar. We're at the whiskey jar. If I hit undo, we'll just have one. We're at the whiskey jar. Now, if I hit undo again, of course, it's going to redo. We're at the whiskey jar. And bring it back. By the way, that's Whiskey Jar. If you want to have a listen to the full studio track, then please do so because it's out now, which is right here. So obviously scan the QR code or go and find Whiskey Jar by John Paul, featuring Joe McAdam, and you can hear the full studio version where even I'm playing a guitar solo. I know, weird, right? And thank you very much for your support if you do so. And then go and have a listen to Stray and Walking Home and First Mile and all the other albums. That'd be really nice, thanks. Now, things like, obviously, for looping, the great thing is that you can start something real simple and then an entire song comes out of that. So I'm just going to swap guitars real quick, and then I'm actually going to show you what I mean by that. Now, the reason why I'm swapping guitars is because this one's in Dadgad. I do love Dadgad. And why you didn't hear a quick, massive bump there is two things. You can either, on the TC Helicon, you can actually hold this button down. Oh, this has moved a little bit. Sorry. There we go. Let's just... Whee, there's my legs. There we go. You can actually hold this button down, and what it does is it takes all the effects off, but it also mutes the mic. But additionally to that, if you've forgotten to do this button here is actually a pedal switcher. So I don't actually have a second one on there. I'd normally have this plugged in automatically. So now, the red guitar is normally on red, and the green guitar is normally on green. So So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to erase everything. You'll notice it was playing there, you didn't hear it, and that's because I've got the volume control actually stopping the volume of the loops. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to obviously showcase this for you. So I have this song which Tate will be happy in a minute because I'm going to do Boscastle. But I had this tune in my head, this little riff of dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Now, I didn't know what to sort of do with this, and I was just like, "Oh, what am I going to do?" Yeah. So that's not in time. You'll hear me speed up or slow down actually with the. But that's okay because if I'm practicing at home, then this is just creation right now. So, Boscastle came about I realised it's quite, funky. So by doing that, I kind of realised that's quite funky and that's quite cool. And, all I would say is in the sounds of creation, when you're very first putting lyrics down to a song or you're figuring things out like the melody, just have a listen to, and it's available on YouTube and stuff, people have put it down, when Michael Jackson was first putting the lyrics down for things like Thriller and stuff and a couple of other songs, and he's like, he's just literally mumbling in the first instance just to get the actual intonation down and then start fitting the words around the tune, which is really, really cool. But it was a great insight. So if I was to actually then go, right, I need to break this down of how I'm actually going to bring Boscastle to life, well, I know I need that dun, 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 dun. What does this sound like an octave down? Dun, 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 dun. And that became the bass line. So that was it. And I was like, as soon as I put that in, I was like, that's cool. So I was like, right, okay, I need to get a beat going. So we'll do rhythmic strumming. And then we'll use another, and then we'll use track 2 for the bass line. Because we can. So I started actually writing Boscastle from there. As the stream turns into ocean, boats rise and defy the tide. Both of them run to each other. Valenti sees Jordan's eyes. It's a quiet and peaceful village, tucked away from the busy lights. Now they're thrown into the spotlight as the riverbanks lose their fight, yeah. And you've got dun 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 dun. In fact, I felt like it needed something like in the middle, so like almost like as as like a bridge or a break. I started twiddling around with this idea. So that, all that comes in now. And the great thing is, I actually decided for Boss Castle that when I do this live, I actually started with the guitar and everything else. Now what I do is I put all that down, and the very first verse is all about almost like it's on the radio announcing the flood, and that's what the story is about. So I leave the radio effect on for verse 1, and I don't play the guitar at all. So now we've built these 3 loops up really quickly, and because you can build it up actually in a couple of loops, as it were, and then these are going. Turn off these guys. We just go. As the stream turns into ocean, boats rise on the father tide. Them unto each other, but land sees Jordan's eyes. Just a quiet and peaceful village, tucked away from the busy lights. Now they're thrown into the spotlight as the riverbanks lose their fight, yeah. And then what we do is we bring the guitar. Sorry, hang on. And then we bring the guitar in for the first time with the chords, and it just feels like a little bit of an explosion. And then when I did the studio version of this, that's when I used this big distorted electrical guitar. If you haven't heard the studio version, go and listen to it. And then this is actually just a little bit of way to sort of like bring it all back in. But then all I've got to do is, for the rest of the song, all I've got to do is drop out loop 3, which is the and then start and stop things. And that's it. And literally, that is the whole song. And the great thing about that is I can just obviously bring everything in or out. So as we go into this, yeah. Captures have over to pick up the poor and the posh. And the country watches the horror as the cars roll around in the wash. Facing fear and anguish, people feel there is no hope. The lower bridge is lost, my friend. Look up and we'll throw you the rope. Now, there is actually a chord change here, but I've figured out that actually by doing the loop, I can actually big rig punching through a sandstorm, like a seagull flying through the harbor. That's it, literally those 2 chords. And then we go back to with luck at our side, she doesn't look back, Boss Castle, you would live again, yeah. And we go back into our rhythmic thing. What I found out is it's okay to leave the D there. So let's play this now. Big rig punching through a sandstorm, like a seagull flying through the harbor. With luck on her side, she doesn't look back, Boss Castle, you will live again. I'll do it again. Big rig punching through a sandstorm, like a seagull flying through the harbor. With luck on her side, she doesn't look back, Boss Castle, you will live again. So there we go. So I just wanted to showcase that as kind of the ending, because that song is sort of the epitome of actually learning to loop. Because, one second. One of these things that with looping is that you get an idea and you can actually put it down, you can figure out loads of different things, and if you've got effects as well, you can start messing around with them and figure out the best way to actually utilize them. Then it's also a case of where you put things, where you turn things on, where you turn things off, where you undo stuff, where you redo stuff, and then it's just a case of actually bringing that all together into a performance. So I hope that has really given you some insight. A little bit of an apology, obviously, about the interruption in the middle of the live stream. If you're watching this back on the replay, thank you for staying with us because, yeah, that was fun. I'll see if I can snip it out in the YouTube editor. But if you're watching this back on LinkedIn and Facebook and everything else, obviously we did return. Hello. And yeah, apologies about that. So, but thank you very much for obviously joining us today. And if you are interested, obviously, in looping, I'll say it one final time. You can get my course, which is How to Loop Like a Pro. It's currently $119. It's normally $149. So obviously, put the code Loop Like a Pro in, and you can actually scan the QR code and get me teaching you how to loop from the very, very beginning. And we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much, obviously, for joining us for How to Loop the Basics, sponsored by DistroKid, and have a great, great week. Don't worry, Jason. It's available as a replay as soon as this live stream is over.